The year is 2025, and the Philippines is facing off against China in a real-life geopolitical showdown. In one corner, the Philippines, 7,000 islands, fierce spirit, and a history of punching above its weight. In the other, China, economic giant, military powerhouse, and regional heavyweight. This isn't just a headline, it's an underdog story unfolding in the world's most contested waters. Tensions have boiled over, and now the Philippines is considering a bold move, banning Chinese goods. It's a David versus Goliath moment, with the world watching. This isn't just about politics, it's about livelihoods, national pride, and the meaning of sovereignty. The Philippines is drawing a line in the water, challenging the idea that might makes right. Welcome to the main event, the Philippines versus China. Picture the Philippines as David, passionate, independent, but outgunned and outspent by its neighbor. China is Goliath, the world's second-largest economy, a military juggernaut, and a global influencer. On paper, it's a mismatch, like a high school team challenging NBA champions. But the Philippines has a slingshot economic policy. The proposed ban on Chinese products is a bold attempt to use consumer power as leverage. It's a risky move. Small countries rarely challenge superpowers this way. If it works, it could inspire others to stand up to bigger neighbors. But Goliath has plenty of ways to hit back. This isn't a fairy tale, it's a high-stakes gamble with real consequences. The world is watching to see if David's stone can make a dent. Take a moment to look around you. Your phone, your shirt, your shoes, even the headphones you might be using right now. Odds are most of these everyday essentials are made in China. From electronics to clothes, Chinese products are everywhere in our lives. Now imagine if all of it vanished overnight. That's the reality a ban would create for millions of Filipinos. Products we rely on would simply disappear from shelves. Store shelves would empty out, prices for the things that remain would skyrocket, and daily life would become much more difficult for everyone, especially for families on a budget. The truth is, the Philippines is deeply connected to China's massive manufacturing network. Our economy depends on these imports for affordability and variety. If a ban were enforced, businesses would be forced to scramble for new suppliers, often from countries with higher prices or less reliable supply chains. This would drive up costs and shrink choices for everyone. It's not just about inconvenience. Thousands of small and large businesses could go under, jobs would disappear, and the entire economy would suffer a major blow. And remember, trade goes both ways. China is also a major buyer of Philippine exports, from bananas to minerals. If Manila bans Chinese goods, Beijing will almost certainly retaliate, hurting Filipino farmers, miners, and exporters who depend on the Chinese market to survive. Economic boycotts might sound like a powerful statement, but they're double-edged swords that can cut both ways, causing pain on both sides of the border. The economic pain would ripple through both countries, affecting workers, families, and businesses everywhere. It's a risky gamble, with millions of Filipino livelihoods and futures hanging in the balance. So is the risk really worth the message we're trying to send? That's a question every Filipino needs to consider. To understand the tension, look at China's transformation. In the 1980s, China was poor and isolated. Today, it's an economic and military superpower. Reform and opening up turned China into the world's factory, lifting hundreds of millions out of poverty. Cities like Shenzhen became tech hubs overnight. With economic power came military ambition. China built a world-class navy and modernized its forces. This wasn't just for show, it was about protecting interests and enforcing claims, especially in the South China Sea. The US used to dominate the Pacific, but now China is rewriting the rules. Smaller neighbors like the Philippines are caught in the middle, nervous about the new balance of power. China's rise has changed the game for everyone. The South China Sea dispute? Think of a family potluck. The potato salad, aka the sea, is in the middle, and everyone's been sharing for years. Suddenly China claims the whole bowl, citing ancient family recipes. The Philippines and other neighbors protest, they've always had their share. But China, now the biggest cousin, puts up keep out signs. The South China Sea is a global trade superhighway, rich in resources and vital for millions. This isn't just a squabble over water, it's about security, food, and economic survival. International law gives each country a fair share, but China's claim ignores these rules. That's why this family reunion is so tense. The fight is about more than just potato salad, it's about the future of the region. China's claim? The infamous 9-line, a giant loop on the map, grabbing nearly the whole South China Sea. The line's roots are murky, based on old maps and historical fishing trips, not modern law. In 2016, the Philippines took China to court and won. The tribunal ruled China's claim had no legal basis, but China ignored the ruling, calling it waste paper, and kept building military bases on disputed reefs. So you have international law on one side, and a superpower refusing to play by the rules on the other. It's like the referee calls a foul, but the biggest player just keeps playing. The result? Ongoing tension, militarization, and a standoff with no easy solution. The world's rules are clear, but enforcement is another story. That's the heart of the problem. The Philippines and China aren't just rivals, they're deeply connected, bound by a complex web of history, economics, and emotion that shapes every interaction between them. For centuries, waves of trade, migration, and cultural exchange have woven their stories together. Chinese traders arrived on Philippine shores long before colonial times, bringing goods, ideas, and even families that would become part of the Filipino fabric. Fast forward to today, and China stands as one of the Philippines' top trading partners, supplying everything from electronics to machinery. Chinese investments are visible everywhere, from gleaming bridges to new railways and bustling ports. This economic partnership creates a real dilemma. The head says, "We need China's money, technology, and vast markets to grow and modernize." But the heart says, "We can't give up our sovereignty or let our national pride be trampled." Many Filipinos feel a deep unease about growing Chinese influence. Filipino leaders have tried to walk a tightrope, balancing the urgent need for development with the powerful call of national pride. Sometimes they downplay disputes or sign new deals, hoping to keep the peace and the economy moving. Yet every time Chinese ships appear in Philippine waters or military bases rise on disputed reefs, anger flares up. These actions spark protests, outrage, and calls for a tougher stance. The result is a constant tug-of-war between pragmatism and patriotism, with ordinary Filipinos caught in the middle, torn between economic opportunity and the defense of their homeland. Policy swings back and forth, reflecting a nation divided. Leaders debate, citizens protest, and the country's direction shifts with every new crisis or opportunity. At its core, this isn't just about economics or territory. It's about who the Filipino people are and what kind of future they want to build for themselves and the next generation. The relationship is complicated, and every move is a delicate balancing act. One misstep could tip the scales. That's why the stakes feel so personal. For many, it's not just a story on the news, it's their lives, their identity, and their future on the line. There's an old saying, "When elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers." This phrase captures the reality that when powerful forces clash, it's often the smaller, more vulnerable parties who bear the brunt of the consequences. In nature, when two massive elephants battle, the ground beneath them is trampled and destroyed, leaving lasting scars on the landscape. In today's world, the Philippines and China are the elephants, locked in a tense standoff over territory and influence. But it's not just these two nations at risk. The entire region and even the world feels the tremors of their conflict. Everyday people, from fishermen to business owners, are caught in the crossfire, uncertain about what the future holds. If tensions escalate into a trade war or worse, a military clash, the effects would ripple across the globe. Global shipping routes could be blocked, causing massive delays and shortages. Prices for everyday goods could skyrocket, and financial markets would be thrown into chaos, affecting jobs and savings everywhere. The South China Sea is more than just a body of water. It's a vital artery for global trade, with trillions of dollars worth of goods passing through each year. Any conflict here would be catastrophic, not just for Asia, but for the entire world economy. The Philippines has a mutual defense treaty with the United States, meaning an attack could quickly draw in superpowers and escalate into a much larger confrontation. Military exercises and alliances are meant to deter aggression, but they also raise the stakes. This isn't just a local dispute, it's a test of the international order and the rules that have kept peace for decades. Diplomats and leaders from around the world are watching closely, knowing that the outcome could set a precedent for future conflicts. The big question is, will international rules and law prevail, or will raw power and military might decide the outcome? The answer will shape how countries resolve disputes for years to come. If China is allowed to get its way by force, other powerful countries might start ignoring international law too, leading to a more dangerous and unpredictable world. The world is watching, holding its breath to see which model will win out, the rule of law or the rule of might. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the outcome will send a message to every nation. What happens next in the South China Sea will shape not just the region, but global politics and the balance of power for years, or even decades to come. For the Philippines, this isn't just about resources, it's about national pride, identity, and the spirit of a people. Centuries of colonization have made sovereignty a deeply emotional and personal issue. China's actions in the West Philippine Sea are seen as an attack on dignity, history, and hard-won freedom. Standing up to China is about honoring the legacy of heroes and asserting true independence. The slogan, Atin Ito, this is ours, captures the spirit of resistance and unity. It's a unifying cry, turning a complex dispute into a personal fight for respect and recognition. Winning isn't just about territory, it's about not backing down, no matter the odds. For many Filipinos, respect on the world stage is the ultimate victory and source of pride. Sometimes that's worth more than any economic gain or material reward. So, what's next? The standoff is tense, but war isn't inevitable. Dialogue is the most powerful tool. Peaceful resolution takes courage and wisdom. China must recognize that true respect is earned, not forced. The Philippines must defend its rights without risking disaster. There are options: joint resource exploration, shared fishing rules, and practical cooperation. These solutions aren't easy, but they're better than conflict. The goal? Turn the South China Sea from a battleground into a zone of peace. The world faces bigger challenges, climate change, pandemics, than another war. The future depends on balancing national interests with shared responsibility. The South China Sea is a test. Let's hope dialogue, not force, writes the final chapter. Peace is possible, if both sides are willing to talk.